And we are live. Welcome to the process. I believe we are live at least. It is Tuesday, April 5th. I am Josh Engleman, and I am here to break down a 12-game NBA slate. We're coming back for the final week with major gusto. 12 games after being off yesterday. It's kind of insane. So thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button if you haven't done it already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. It's good to see everybody here. We're back in the childhood bedroom for the stream. Rise and grind, everybody. No banner for today, but we can still do it. Getting text from my wife right now at the moment I start. That's incredible, but perfect timing. Anyway, here's the deal. So clearly, we had no basketball yesterday, which was a very nice day off. I wasn't mad about it at all. I have a hard out. I got to be in the car on the road somewhere in the 7:45 range. I want to be out of here by 7:15. And I know what you guys are thinking. Josh, there's 12 games. There's no way you're going to be out of here by 7:15. You're going to be here till 8:15. I have already gone through this entire slate. I've projected the minutes. I've actually already recorded the contenders videos. On a day like today, I had to be ahead of everybody. So we're going to still walk through each individual game, talk about what's going on, take a look at the summary table. We're going to do all of that stuff. But everything's already done. I don't have to make any tweaks. I don't have to make any changes. Everything is already ready already. Yeah, I said it like that. So we do need to do this, though. I got my coffee. I hope you guys do as well. Whether you got a coffee, tea, water, beer, whether you're doing some food, chicken nuggets, Pop-Tarts, hot dogs, pizza, whatever you got. I got a hot wing stromboli downstairs that I should probably take a bite of before I leave. Or if you're just hitting that good stuff, go for it. Cheers, everybody. Clink. Rise and grind. Let's get it started. All that coffee is desperately needed. So let's get into it. We're going to start it off. First game on the docket for today. Philadelphia 76ers. God, nose is so itchy. Philadelphia 76ers, 12-point favorites at Indiana. 231 total. Actually, can I make this? Will that be better? That will be better. 231 total. For Philly, they've got everybody available. No injury issues whatsoever. For the Indiana Pacers, very different story. Not a lot that we can dig into here. Goga's questionable. TJ McConnell is questionable. And then Malcolm Brogdon is still questionable. I've left Brogdon out. Seems really weird that he would come back for the final 2 games of this season. But I actually wouldn't be surprised if TJ McConnell came back because he's TJ McConnell. So actually projected TJ McConnell in, basically just gave him the Dwayne The Rock Washington minutes. Assuming Goga is in, we can kind of take a quick look at Philadelphia to start because we don't have any changes to make. This is standard Philly rotation. And to me, it's 3 guys. You can play Harden, you can play Embiid, and you can play Tyrese Maxey. I don't have a ton of interest in going to someone like Tobias Harris. If you do, go for it. Not really my cup of tea right now, given the price tag. But Maxey at 5,300 on FanDuel continues to be at least mildly interesting to me because of his minutes. If you're picking between Harden and Embiid, it's probably easier to get to Harden just because of his position. Embiid 11.6 on FanDuel, 12K on DraftKings. So I cracked my back. Oh, there it was. That felt good too. So we know what we're getting out of Philly. It's the same thing we're getting basically every time they play. And then as we look at Indiana, not a lot going on here. I think Buddy Hield is probably your best option. 6K on FanDuel, 6,600 on DraftKings. He's got the best eligibility. You can make a case for someone like Terry Taylor on DraftKings at 4,400, but it's not all that exciting for the Indiana side of this game. As we go to game number 1 and we just add everybody in, you can sort of see how everybody joins the table, and all these little icons and stuff will go away once we fill the table up. But not a lot going on in this first one outside of Embiid and Harden. Kickstart. Am I an NC fan? No, I'm not. I am a Duke fan, if I'm anything. I don't really follow it all that much any longer, but diehard Duke fan growing up, that's for sure. I did watch the second half of the UNC game against Duke, which was not fun to watch, but what are you going to do? Game number 2, Cleveland Cavaliers, 8.5 point favorites in Orlando, 214 total. Now for this one, Cleveland, we know what's going on. It's no Evan Mobley. It's no Jared Allen. The Orlando side is comical, as per usual. Q-tag on Anthony, Q-tag on Franz Wagner, Q-tag on Schofield and Suggs. Wendell Carter Jr. is out. So the way that we're treating this one would be as follows. On Cleveland, we do have a lot of things that we like. Karis LeVert on FanDuel looks good at 5,400. For some reason, he's still $1,600 cheaper than he is on DraftKings. So he's going to be a very big priority today. Obviously, going to Darius Garland is very easy across both sites. I think going to Moses Brown is very easy across both sites. He's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. He's a high 4s price tag across FanDuel and DraftKings. Good value for the amount of minutes that he's been playing with no Mobley and with no Jared Allen. So there's a lot to like here for Cleveland. You see a lot of green, a couple yellows. You know, there is some value to be had, and that's because it's a face-up spot against Orlando. Now, for the Magic, if some of those Q-tag guys end up getting ruled out, this will change a bit. I think Mo Wagner pretty easily is your best option here. 3,900 on FanDuel, 4,200 on DraftKings, but he's just a guy. He's just a value play on a 12-game slate. We're going to see a lot of value on a 12-gamer eventually show up, and he's just going to blend in. So there's not a lot from Orlando that jumps out. As you can see, when we add game number 2 in, Karis LeVert jumps to the top of the FanDuel list. We're not surprised there because of that $5,400 price tag, but nothing in this game passes Embiid and Harden on DK. Technically, Brown and Garland tie Harden. But, you know, if we're talking about pay-up options, I've got Harden by a nose over Darius Garland. Now we go to game number 3. This one's kind of insane. The Houston Rockets are 17.5 point underdogs in Brooklyn with a 244 total. Now for Houston, we know what we're doing. They don't have anything weird going on. It's no Eric Gordon, no Christian Wood, no Schroeder, everybody else available. For Brooklyn, a little bit more difficult. We've got a Q tag on Seth Curry. We've got a Q tag on James Johnson. Bruce Brown is probable. Goran Dragic is out for COVID. Obviously, Ben Simmons and Joe Harris and stuff aren't playing. So the big takeaway here is the fact that it's a 17.5 point line, but also Brooklyn has to win this game. It's very important. So if we look at Houston, it's in a way, it's a good matchup in that if Houston can be competitive, this is a game that's competitive at a high score. This is not a 98-96 game if it has to be competitive. This game is like 154, 152 type stuff. So I like getting to Houston outside of Şengün on FanDuel, where he's 5,800 and has the power forward center eligibility. I wouldn't say that anybody is an immediate priority, but I'd be happy to go to Kenyon Martin Jr., Jalen Green, Jayshawn Tate. I mean, Kevin Porter's playing more minutes as well, but the price is climbing. There are some things to like here for Houston, even though they're 17-point dogs. Andres, I assume we just had the Trout promo going. I don't know if we're going to be having anything else. On the Brooklyn side, this is where it gets a little tricky. If you think that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to play competitive minutes, then Kyrie Irving on FanDuel at $9K is very underpriced. But he's not going to need 37 minutes like I gave him, but you're going to want to get, 34 plus at that 9K price tag. But I think Kyrie looks really good. And the other guy that I think is a real guy that you want to target here is Andre Drummond. 6,700 on FanDuel, 6,800 on DraftKings. Just stands out. We're talking like a 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy. Not going to get slowed down by Houston at all. Houston's going to miss a ton of shots. That means a ton of rebounding for Andre Drummond. So I think that stands out. And then Bruce Brown, 5,300 on DK. He's $800 cheaper than he is on FanDuel. We don't see that all that frequently. I think that price works. Jeremy, good morning. Toasted Biscuits, good morning. As we look at game number 3, you can see Kyrie Irving looks as good as Karis LeVert if you think he's going to play 37 minutes. So your mileage may vary there. But Kyrie, Drummond, Şengün all enter that top 10 on FanDuel. Drummond ties Bruce Brown at the top spot on DK. Now we're gonna move some people around here for sure, but there's a lot to tackle from Brooklyn on DraftKings today. Time for another sip of coffee as I move it on to game number 4. Excited for this sip of coffee too. It doesn't get much better than that on a day where, you didn't do anything the day before. Feels good. Charlotte Hornets in at number 4. They're 5.5-point dogs at Miami, 224 total. We know we have Gordon Hayward back as well, so that is mildly limiting. As we look at Charlotte, we can see very quickly on the summary table in the bottom left, there's not a lot here that looks very good. Do you want to go to Terry Rozier, 6,900, 7,100? It's okay. Do you want to go to Mason Plumlee on FanDuel at 3,800 and hope he just gets a couple extra minutes? You can. But for now, there is not much that I am recommending for the Charlotte Hornets against the Miami Heat today, especially with Gordon Hayward back now. Now on the Heat, different story, but there's a little bit of a tricky part that we need to talk about here, and that is the fact that Miami has Q tags on Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Dwayne Dedmon, and Markieff Morris. But assuming everybody is available, which is possible, Jimmy Butler on FanDuel is 7,600. To me, that is a pretty big underprice, so I'm happy to go to Butler. I think Bam on DraftKings at 7,900, even at just center eligible, stands out as a really nice play. Both of those guys are probably the two main priorities. I don't get the sense that we go to too much else from Miami. And as you can see, as we add game number 4, Butler into the number 7 spot on FanDuel. No one else near him from this game. We get Bam up into the number 3 spot on DK. Butler gets to 12, but that'll obviously tumble. So Bam on DraftKings, Butler on FanDuel, the only guys that we can consider even close to priorities. They will work their way down the list a little bit as we move forward, but they stand out. I am sleepy, Crutball Joker. I woke up at 4:15 to do this. On to game number 5. The Atlanta Hawks are 4-point dogs in Toronto. 226 implied total. For the Hawks, we got a Q tag on Gallo. We have a Q tag on Bogdan Bogdanovic. On the Toronto side, we have very little to worry about outside of OG Anunoby being questionable with a different injury other than the finger. So as we look at this one, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised about what comes out of it. For Atlanta, there's basically nothing that's standout on this 12-gamer. Capella and Trey on FanDuel are all right. But to me, the most likely scenario would be having basically no Atlanta. News God in the house. Good morning. Toasted biscuits. Every sip of coffee is great. It's like every bite of pizza. For the Toronto side, clearly slightly more interesting because everybody plays massive minutes. So whether that's Van Vliet, who's played like 40 minutes the past 2 games, I got him in at 36. So whether you want to go to Van Vliet, 7,400 on FanDuel, 8,100 on DraftKings. You can go to Gary Trent on FanDuel and DraftKings. You can go to Pascal Siakam on DraftKings. A little bit less interesting on FanDuel, where he's only power forward eligible. You can basically get to Siakam, Van Vliet, Barnes, Trent, Anunoby, really as much as you would like to. And if Anunoby ends up out, it'll look even better. So as we add game number 5, you can see how this really looks. Robert, what's up? Good morning. Hit that like button, guys, if you haven't done it yet. 85 viewers, 35 likes, so we're slacking on the thumbs ups. As we switch to game number 5, you can see Van Vliet and Trent both make the top 10 on FanDuel, but there's cogs in the machine. They're going to tumble a little bit, but they look good. On DraftKings, it's basically the same story, although you get Siakam then into the top 10 as well. But if we're going to anything from Atlanta, Toronto, it's Toronto. Those are the only things highlighted. As you can see, no one from Atlanta made the top 30 of the first 5 games. That's how uninteresting they are. To game number 6 we go. Milwaukee at Chicago. Milwaukee 4.5-point favorites in Chicago, 229 total. Nothing too crazy going on in this one. For Milwaukee, we basically have everybody that's normally available. Giannis is in. The only guy that's not playing is DeAndre Bembry, and we know that. On the Chicago side, Caruso is in. Zach LaVine is probable. Lonzo still out. So for Milwaukee, clearly, if you want to play Giannis, I would never tell anyone not to. He's 12,100 on FanDuel, 11,800 on DraftKings. We're going to have more than enough value today to be able, at least by the time we get to lock, to be able to pay up for Giannis. So go ahead and do so accordingly, and you'll be very happy. 1.75 fantasy points per minute. After that, I'm probably not getting to anything from Milwaukee. Maybe you could take some shots on Chris Middleton on FanDuel at 7,400, but Giannis is probably the only guy you want here. On the Chicago side, though, get a little bit of a pace-up bump for them against the Bucks. I think Zach LaVine continues to be underpriced. He's 7,200 on FanDuel, 7,800 on DraftKings. He is my priority coming from the Bulls. Vooch would be my other priority. 7,600 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings. Just a good price. That's all. And, playing solid as of late, 1.15 fantasy points per minute. I got him a little bit higher because of the matchup, but I think he looks good. You can see how these guys stack up as we put in game number 6. It's not a lot. We only get Giannis onto the list from Milwaukee. We get Zach LaVine into the top 10 and into the number 1 spot on DraftKings, so pay attention to that. Vooch into number 3. So the LaVine, Vooch, Giannis combo on DK stands out a lot more than it does on FanDuel, but that's all that really stands out from this game. DeRozan sneaks onto the bottom of the DK list, but he'll fall off by the time we get to game number 12. Let's go back to the coffee now. Making good progress so far. Game number 7. So we're halfway through. And again, I apologize for having to cut it short and not working through all the rotations. But 1, it's a 12-game slate on one of the last few days of the year. So a bit of it is a chore. But 2, I just don't have that kind of time this morning. The Washington Wizards are 11-point dogs in Minnesota, 233 total. I really don't like the Wizards. Today, they have no Kyle Kuzma, and basically everybody else is in. From Minnesota, sort of the same story. Beverly back off the injury report, should be fine. Beasley is back again. Jaden McDaniels is doubtful. So we kind of get a full strength both sides here. The interesting piece here is, nothing. Washington doesn't even have a yellow circled guy. So it's really we're not going to see probably anyone from Washington in the top 30. If you're taking a shot on anyone, it's probably Ish Smith. He's played increased minutes over the past 2 games. If you think that those increased minutes can continue, then he's got a decent shot of providing value at basically a 4K price tag on FanDuel and DraftKings. If you don't think that's the guy, I don't really see today as a day to go to Kristaps Porzingis. But for 9K, a guy that's playing at a 1.5, close to a 1.5 fantasy point per minute rate for the Wizards. I don't begrudge anybody it, especially in a spot against Minnesota, but it's not my favorite thing in the world to get to the Washington Wizards today. I do, however, want to get to a lot of the Minnesota Timberwolves, in particular, D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards. Russell is 5,300 on FanDuel. He's 6,400 on DraftKings. I think both prices are amazing. I think Edwards for 7K on FanDuel, 7,500 on DraftKings. Both prices amazing. I'm happy to get to both guys for sure. I certainly don't mind getting to Towns on FanDuel at 8,300. 9,500 on DK is probably priced a little bit more appropriately. And then you're more than welcome to fill out your lineups with Beverly and Vanderbilt. They're obviously very strong plays in terms of like ever being in a lineup. They're just not going to be near the top of the rankings table, but most of Minnesota is ranking pretty highly, which you're about to see here. Russell and Edwards into the 3rd and 4th spot on FanDuel. Edwards jumps already to the top on DraftKings, a point ahead of Zach LaVine, but Russell not too far behind, even at that increased price tag, still into the number 4 spot. And we're starting to get this delineation here. But we've got a pretty good core at the top of both of these sites. We're starting to see it build. Towns into 14. He should remain in this top 30 by the time we're done, but it will be close. But you can start to see how guys separate. And as we slowly work our way down, I mean, we're 7 games in. We've got 5 more to go. And to be in the top 30, you need your plus minus to be basically north of 8. You're going to probably need it to be double digits by the time we're all said and done here. You're going to need your boom percentage at 5x to be, in the 20s to be relevant on a day like today. Game number 8. This one's awful. Portland OKC. I mean, this one's just going to be utterly tanktastic. It's going to be really hard to lock down what you think anybody's going to be able to do. For Portland, it's basically the same stuff that's been going on. No Justice Winslow, no Trendon Watford, no Josh Hart. They did get exemptions for Drew Eubanks and Chris Dunn, so they're going to be with them for the rest of the season. On the OKC side, no Trey Mann, so it looks like they have their same sort of 8-man rotation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Their 9-man rotation with Jalen Horde. Butthole, good morning. So as we look at Portland, these prices have all come up at this point. There are no priorities from the Portland Trailblazers. If you want to go to a little bit of Greg Brown on FanDuel at 3,700, I think there could be some value there. Or Brandon Williams on DraftKings at 6,600. There could be some value there. But remember what I said. We're probably going to need to be in double digits to be a top 30 play. Those guys aren't in double digits. Greg Brown on FanDuel is probably going to get there from a boom perspective. But there are no major priorities here for Portland because the prices are already up. Now, OKC is a little bit different. I think Poku looks like the best option. 6,100 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DraftKings. And then Vit Krejci is all right. But again, we're talking plus 8 on both sides. Not going to be in the top 30. Jalen Horde could knock on the door of that on DK. But it's really Poku that's the main piece coming out of that game, and you'll be able to see that here. Gets to 11th on FanDuel, 9th on DraftKings. Jalen Horde's sort of sneaking high. He'll probably be right on the edge of that top 30 by the time we're done, but everybody else is just going to funnel their way out. It's just not a game that's really easy to get to because they've been tanking for so long. Their prices are already sort of at equilibrium. That's where it gets a little hairy in that one. San Antonio at Denver. This one stands out because the best play of the day on DraftKings is going to be popping up here. The Spurs are 7-point dogs, 234 total. And the big piece of news here for San Antonio is that DeJounte Murray is out. Jock Landale out as well. Not as important, but no DeJounte Murray for San Antonio. On the Denver side, they have everybody that they normally have. Jeff Green is off of the injury report. So what that means is we look at San Antonio and we see Trey Jones, your number one play so far today. 3,700 on FanDuel, 4K on DraftKings. I assume he starts even with no rate changes whatsoever. He is priced like he's the backup, and he should play well over 30 minutes. So I really like folk. I mean, he's just going to be the most popular guy today. You'll get more value that's sort of like him, but he's going to be the first guy that you should put into every cash lineup on a day like today. Jakob Poeltl on DraftKings at 6,600 seems fine. Devin Vassell on FanDuel seems fine, but as you can see, those plus minuses are both single digits. So really, even with Murray out, I thought that Keldon Johnson would pop a little bit more. It doesn't appear to be the case. So it's Trey Jones season for the Spurs. And playing Denver isn't exactly like the greatest matchup in the world. On Denver, though, I'm not all that enamored with anything. You know, Jokic looks good, not great. He's 12K on FanDuel, 12.5 on DraftKings. I think he's just very difficult to get to, even though he's scoring 1.86 fantasy points per minute over his last 30 days. I got him in for 30% usage, 65% true shooting, a 40% assist rate, a 20% rebounding rate. It's just going to be easier to get to Giannis's and the other pay-up options of the world. And you'll see it here. The Trey Jones slots into that number one spot. It's not even close. He's just firmly locked there. And then you don't see anybody else from either one of these games really all that close to the top. Will Barton at 23rd on DraftKings. If he hangs on to this top 30 spot, I'd be surprised. We've got 3 games to go. Jokic at 27th on FanDuel. Those guys are going to get pushed out. So game number 9, not all that interesting. San Antonio and Charlotte. Nope, that's not the right game. San Antonio and Denver. It's Trey Jones season, though. Very, very clearly your number one option. 3 to go. We go to game number 10. Memphis Grizzlies at the Utah Jazz. Grizzlies are 5-point dogs in Utah, 222 total. Now, for the Grizz, they get everybody back except for Ja. You know, that last time out, they sat a bunch of dudes, still won. Evidently Dillon Brooks is doubtful. Did that news just come out? Let me look at this. Because I have him in my last run. But he may be doubtful. So anyway, Tyus Jones, Bane, Jackson, Adams, all back in. If Brooks is out, Bane's going to look even better. But for right now, I'm just going to assume that he's in. It's not going to change all that much for me. I don't like a lot here from Memphis. On the Utah side, we got a couple Q tags. And by a couple, I mean just Trent Forrest. I was just used to having those Q tags. So as we look at Memphis, we can talk through it a little bit easier. There are no priorities. Like Jaren Jackson's the best play, and he's basically going to be like the 30th best guy on FanDuel. Now, if Brooks goes out of there, Bane will probably get a little bit better, but nothing too crazy. There's just these guys' prices have already stabilized. And you'll see that on the process tab. Memphis isn't going to be that team for you today. And as we look at Utah, outside of Donovan Mitchell on DraftKings at 8,600, probably not really either. This is going to look pretty bad when we type it in. Donovan Mitchell is 28th on FanDuel in these first 10 games. Now, he gets the 14th on DK. That's going to be firmly in this top 10, but Gobert probably falls out of it. And as you can see here, there's not a soul from Memphis in the top 30. Very easy to avoid the Memphis-Utah game. Very easy. 121 viewers, 50 likes. The viewership is great, but I'm a little surprised that you guys are slacking on the like button as much as you are. It just seems a little light, you know? New Orleans Pelicans, 8-point favorites at Sacramento, 225 total. This one has the potential to get a little weird. We'll point it out on New Orleans first. Q tag on Joval. That could really open things up if he ends up sitting. Najee Marshall is available. Zion not available, clearly. On the Sacramento side, a little bit more confusing. Alex Len's still questionable, but no Fox, no Sabonis. you just never know what the Sacramento Kings are going to do. So as we look at this 11th game for today, and as we look at the Pelicans, we see very quickly, nobody even in yellow. We are going to need Joval to be out for the New Orleans Pelicans to be relevant for today. I think they look generally bad across the board. Maybe I should be giving Brandon Ingram 2 more minutes. I don't think that's going to make him all that interesting outside of that $8K price tag on DraftKings. We're going to need Joval to go away in this one to make anything from the Pelicans worth the shit. On the Sacramento side, it's FanDuel pricing. That's really the only thing that you can get to because we're not getting there on DraftKings. Barnes, Lyles, Jones, Mitchell all work as like last man in types. And you'll see how bad this one is when I do this. No one in this game is in the top 30 on DK. That's kind of crazy. Barnes, Lyles, and Damian Jones sneak on to the bottom half of the top 30 on FanDuel, but that game is really difficult to get to. And then we close it out with maybe the other best play of the day. The Los Angeles Lakers, 11.5 point dogs in Phoenix, 231 total. For the Lakers, this is where it starts to get crazy. One, they've changed up their rotations and took people out because that's not fun. Q tag on LeBron, Q tag on AD. Assuming they both play, AD is a real problem today. On FanDuel in particular, AD will be your number one play of the day, and we'll talk about why in a second. If LeBron ends up out, it's even bigger. And then on the Phoenix side, everybody that was out from that last game, Booker, Crowder, Ayton, they are all available, at least at this point for today. But look at this ridiculous nonsense for Anthony Davis. Now, let's start here, because I think it's important to note that Anthony Davis has been back for 2 games, Friday and Sunday, played 37 minutes and 35 minutes. Anthony Davis is 7,600 today on FanDuel. His 5x plus 10 score is 48. He's got a plus 23. His ceiling at 35 minutes to me is 71 fantasy points. He needs 48 as a target score. That is a massive buffer. On DraftKings, he's 9K and just center eligible, and I still think that looks good. But he is unquestionably your number one play on FanDuel for today, and I don't think that you can go to anything else from the Lakers. On the Phoenix side, nothing really stands out. They should just bludgeon the Lakers here. DeAndre Ayton on FanDuel at 6,500 would be my favorite option. But look at Anthony Davis in comparison to everything else here. He's 4 points clear of Trey Jones. Trey Jones stepping into a starting lineup rotation at 3,700. He's 7 points clear of Karis LeVert, the third best guy. Just very, very clearly, Anthony Davis is your best play on FanDuel. Now, he's basically tied for second on DraftKings with Anthony Edwards, even at just straight 9K. Happy to get there. But Anthony Davis, overall, your best play of the day. But you can see, nothing else from the Lakers shows up. Nothing else really from Phoenix shows up outside of a stray Ayton on FanDuel and a very stray Devin Booker on DraftKings. But that's what we've got right now. So for those that wanted to see it, it's all here. That's the generic top 30s for both FanDuel and DK. Just be aware. Trey Jones and Anthony Davis stand out most on FanDuel. Trey Jones is your primary guy on DK. And we can talk about crunches before we bounce on out of here. It looks like I'm going to be able to hit my 7:15 mark the way that I wanted to. Optimal lineup on FanDuel, 360.2. Let me move this over to the screen so you guys can see it. Ruh-roh. Why is it transparent? Why is this showing up as transparent? It's not transparent on my other monitor. Oh, yeah, it is. I don't know how to make this window not transparent, guys. And if I can't do that, I don't know what to do. It was fine. Every time I click on it, it's like slightly fine. Oh, I'm having some weird transparency issues right now. These windows are like over top of each other. Okay, so why is this happening? It's so bizarre. Maybe if I minimize it and maximize it again, that'll work. It's dark for a second and then it stops being dark. Has anybody ever seen this before? I don't know what to do here. It's just staying transparent. But like if I try to make things bigger or smaller, it stops doing that. Well, I can kind of see it. So optimal lineup is Kyrie Irving, Trey Jones, Zach LaVine, D'Angelo Russell, Giannis, Karis LeVert, Anthony Davis, Mo Wagner, and Alperen Şengün. And if we look at, well, maybe look isn't the right word, but if we want to see the power rankings, AD is the guy that comes out most. Trey Jones second, Kyrie third, LeVert fourth, LaVine fifth. Those are all five guys that are north of 20% optimal odds. Now on DraftKings, we can just see, apparently. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Now we can actually see DraftKings. So DK optimal is 299.4. We've got D'Angelo Russell, Zach LaVine, Jalen Horde, Mo Wagner, Bam Adebayo, Trey Jones, Poku, and Donovan Mitchell. And then as we look at DK power rankings, we've got Trey Jones, obviously separating from the pack. Andre Drummond, D'Angelo Russell, Mo Wagner. That's everybody north of 15%. Look how flat this is. There's basically no separation between anybody on today's slate on DK outside of Trey Jones. It's like the difference between Jakob Poeltl and Andre Drummond is like 1 minute of fantasy projection. That's crazy to me. It's truly crazy to me. There's FanDuel, everybody, if you wanted to see it again. Now that we can actually see it. But that's where we're at for today, guys. I know I zipped through this in like 40 minutes, but I didn't have much of a choice. Yep, Crispy back at the family home for today. I'll be here for tomorrow morning's show as well for the process and contenders. Then back home for Thursday. Yeah, Brandon, I wouldn't have been surprised if Jimmy made it a little bit higher up there in the optimal, but he's still very, very highly ranked on FanDuel. Like, if I lock Jimmy Butler, let me see if I can find him quickly. If I lock Jimmy Butler, what is the optimal score? That could be the last thing we do before we get out of here. Not W lineups. That's not a thing. So the optimal lineup on FanDuel today is 360.2. If I lock Butler, it's 359.4. So he's only 0.8 of a point away. He's, might as well be an optimal play. But guys, that is it. We made it through Everything is done. I hope you guys enjoyed the abbreviated version of the process for today. It's a little bit easier to get through it once I prep it first. But buckle up for this final stretch of the NBA season. Check out Prize Picks. Banners at the top of the screen. They are the presenting sponsor here. Go to awesemo.com/prizepicks-promo, or just simply click the link in the description and get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We have 3 more days of process show during the regular season. I don't know what we'll do during the postseason. We might get 1 or 2 for those big 4-game slates that start off the postseason. But for now, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday might just be it. Thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. This was the process.